So today I'm joined by my colleague John, who is a recent addition to the team as a course enrollment advisor. After many years of teaching abroad, he has joined our team. And then we also have Emos, who many of you might be familiar with. He's our in-house jobs coach. He runs monthly job coaching for our students. He's joining us today as well. We are so excited to start this. It's a different kind of webinar to usual. We said it would be a great idea to get you all into planning mode and get you inspired for 2026. For those interested in pursuing a career in TEFL, now is the perfect time to go for it, particularly with Black Friday around the corner. No better time to get enrolled onto a TEFL course and start a teaching career. Today, what we're going to cover. So, firstly, I'm just going to go through briefly what TEFL is, how to get qualified with us. Then I'm going to pass you over to John, who's going to talk about his experience in the industry and the impact that TEFL certification has had for him. And then, as I said, I'm going to pass you on to Emas, who's going to get into the nitty-gritty of how to plan your future TEFL career and what kind of opportunities are out there globally, what's in demand at the moment. And at the end, we will wrap it up with a nice Q&A session. So what is TEFL? For those who may be very new to you, what we provide is a certification in teaching English as a foreign language to non-native English speakers or learners. Okay, we offer a range of courses that fulfill any type of opportunities that you're looking at. So from 120 hours of training up to 310 hours. Typically, if you're looking to get into the industry, 120 hours would be your minimum, so your base qualification. But in recent years, we've expanded that portfolio of offerings to give you level 5 courses, so diplomas in TEFL as well, that are extremely competitive qualifications in the industry, and really deep dive into teaching grammar, into specialist areas, and giving you a really impressive qualification that would be a level equivalent to a CELTA, we'll say. But additionally, we also have a lot of specialist courses if you're looking at getting into certain niches, such as teaching young learners, teaching exam English, business English, everything like that. We also run virtual teaching practice sessions live with tutors that you can sign up for to get that teaching practice in as well. So we have a huge range there, guys, and the support is second to none. We have a dedicated academic and recruitment support from a team of experienced TEFL teachers and travel experts as well. Some really great benefits being enrolled with us is, as I said, with EMOS, you'll get your monthly job coaching that he runs. You will get access to our jobs boards, job alerts every month. We have a fantastic alumni that is growing on Facebook, on Discord. So during your journey while you're studying and also afterwards, you have tons and tons of support. We also recently launched a really innovative tool called TEFL.ai. So it's a separate website, which is a fantastic tool using the power of AI to help you find jobs, help you improve your CV. Any job applications that you're looking at, there's some really fantastic tools there. So after this webinar, guys, I really recommend logging on and having a look at that website. So guys, I'm going to pass you on to our first speaker of today, John, who I said is going to share his experience in the TEFL industry. Hi, John.
Hi, how do you do, Jess? Hello, everybody, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. So, shall I begin?
Sounds good.
Okay, so welcome everyone. I'm going to go through my own experience in TEFL and what it's done and where it's brought me. I didn't expect to end up here this morning. It's very warm, very nice. I'm feeling a bit seasick, so if I turn green,
Me
it's not the
too. We're
screensaver.
in the
That's
same place, I think.
so. Yes, I'm going to go back to the beginning. It was funny just before we started. Myself and Amos just had a very quick chat, and we've never actually spoken face to face. Um, and it just reinforced what it was I was going to say first about TEFL. No matter what your background, no matter what you've done in life, no matter your age, it doesn't matter with even down to an extent, depending on where you're going, your educational background. TEFL is not like any other job. In fact, I don't even see it as a job. It's almost a vocation. Once you get into it, you'll understand what it is. Anyone who loves TEFL, there's an instant connection. Okay. I started out a long time ago. I was working at a factory, which I didn't want to do, but I had to. It was during a very bad recession back in the 80s. And I left the job at one point. I think it was there just about a year. I think the contract had finished and left with very little to do. I came across a printed out notice on a notice board, and I think it was at a supermarket, and it just said the magic words, get paid to teach and travel. And I thought, getting paid to travel, that sounds like me. So I phoned them up. I went on a course, um, very similar to the 120 that we do. It was an in person one, and for some reason, I knew within a day I loved it, and I put heart and soul into it. At the end of it, I was called by the training center, where I did my training, and they asked me would I take on, and this was a baptism of fire. Would I take on a government contract that just secured teaching a group of Indonesian agricultural engineers at a local training centre in my city? And I said, absolutely, let's do it. I was paid the princely sum of what would be about $8 an hour for 30 hours a week. I had never taken on anything like this in my life, but it was a baptism of fire. But my God, I knew I loved it the first day I did it. The pleasure you get from meeting people you would never meet is it's indescribable. The range of people who were there, it was an incredible experience, and I was so lucky to get it. Um, so if you ever get a chance, no matter, keep your options open, um, because opportunities like this will build a career for you. Because of that little 1 month long stint, I got a job in Turkey. I knew nothing about Turkey. And this was all pre-internet. I went to the library, opened a book, and I went, I don't know a lot more, but I was going. And so I bought a ticket. And any of you who might be old enough to remember a film called Midnight Express, and my apologies to any of our Turkish friends. I promise I'll correct the misapprehensions people had about it. But that's all people knew. When people heard I was going to Turkey, they thought you're a nut. You're an absolute nut. They arrest people, they put them in jail, they torture them, and all this. And I said, look, I'm going. So, but the first thing I did do in Turkey, and I do apologize to any Turkish people, I bought a knife, thinking I'm going to need to defend myself every 2 seconds. That was used for cheese for my entire year in Turkey. I I could not describe the change in myself as a person when I realized that all these impressions we have of countries, of cultures, of places, of people, they are the most limiting thing that we grow up with. I grew as a person in that year by a factor of 20. And it taught me one lesson, which is never presume you know anything. It was a mind blower. The people were just phenomenal. The culture, the history, the students could not have been better. The one thing I'll say is In all the places I've been, I have never been at a school where you do not get support. It is phenomenal. I have never once in 35 years gone to a teacher, asked for help, and been refused. Every teacher has been through it. They've been through the start up phase where you're trying to figure out are your lesson plans good or not, or whatever. Go to a teacher. They are astounding. They will look at your lesson plans, they'll help you, they'll guide you. And in turn, within a short time, you'll be doing that for the new teachers as well. It's a community that never leaves you. I still remember the names and faces of those teachers and the students from 35 years ago. I had an absolute ball in Turkey. I've never forgotten it. But after a year, I decided I wanted to see what else I could do. Um, Very common. I went back to the UK, did a summer stint in summer schools, which are also a great option. You must, I'm sure I'll go into that a little bit later, but it is a great way to get a stocking filler for the summertime, fill up the bank account a little bit, and then have a little holiday at home. I was then a little bit stuck because I was late coming back to Ireland. By the time my holiday finished, it was pushing into November, and I thought, what am I going to do? So the only way you could get jobs in those days was to buy the Guardian newspaper on a Tuesday where all the ads were, and sit down and spend the day writing letters by hand, and then down to the post office to send them off. I got a letter from a chap in Portugal. Liked my letter. I liked his letter. I went to a phone box, if anybody's old enough to remember those, and phoned him. That was on Monday night, and on Friday I landed in Lisbon. Again, knew nothing about Portugal, but I just hit it off with the guy on the phone, and we became really good friends. It was only a 7 month contract. I stayed 5 years. I could not leave it. I just every year was different, and from again, it was all about the learning, for me, and I was growing as a person, and the opportunities that will come along. And I'm sure Enos will talk about this. I was only supposed to be going there as a teacher to go to one of the schools. I stayed at his house for the first 4 nights, um, talking about teaching. And on the fifth day, he brought me to this beautiful village in Portugal, pointed to a school, and he said, "That's the other school that's having problems. Will you run it?" So, in the space of a year, I'd gone from this complete novice teacher to now running a school for a guy. And it's still there. So, I didn't mess that one up. It grew year on year. And by the time I left, we had, I think, there were two full time teachers, three part time teachers. And again, Portugal was just, um, people ask me, what was the thing about Portugal that you loved the most? And I often say it's where I learned to eat, um, which it would be proof if just to put my weight up on the screen. I haven't lost it since then. But it's a magnificent place. I moved to Spain shortly afterwards for a year, um, and I really enjoyed it. But I felt that I was getting into a bit of a loop on my teaching circuit, and I just thought I'd like something different. I went to Sweden on holidays for 2 weeks, and people there at the time, and I didn't knew nothing about the teaching situation in Sweden. I didn't even think they have language schools because their English is so good. And I was asked to go for interview to three different places. So I went, and I thought, okay, just to see what it's like. On the Wednesday, which seems to be my lucky day, I was offered three jobs. And so I flew back to Spain. I told them I wouldn't be back in September. And I packed everything up and flew back to Sweden on Monday. And I thought, great, I'll spend a year in Sweden. It was a challenging one. I love doing business English and technical English, and this is where it all really came to bear for the fact that I had some experience from the different jobs I'd had. Um, then out of the blue, which is what happens in TEFL, the head of department asked me if I would go on an EU mission to Romania to set up a school at a university, a business school. And I said, sure. When would you like me to go? And they said, end of the month. So I thought, okay, back on the plane again. It was, again, a phenomenal opportunity. And this was shortly after the whole breakdown of the old Soviet Union. Um, Mind blowing experience. And I still remember the names and the faces and the people I was with out there. I spent a month in Transylvania, and I have to say it was one of those times when you realize, and myself and Amos had talked about this before we started, just how lucky we are to be in TEFL. You cannot describe the sense of satisfaction and the sense of achievement that you would get dealing with people, doing something. And as I often say, I can't believe I get paid to do something I love this much. And I can tell you in 35 years, I have never got up on a Monday morning and not wanted to race into a classroom. It is just one of those things that gives such pleasure. Um, and the difference you will make in people's lives, most of the time you won't know, but occasionally people will reach out and tell you what's happened in their lives. And Romania was one of those times. It was a very tough time for people there. And it was just such a pleasure to help them get this set up because this was a very big project coming down the line. And to be part of that, that again is one of those life-changing moments. I could tell you stories about it and why. Just trust me on it, because I don't have the time, unfortunately. And I stayed in Sweden and had so many great opportunities. I've met so many people. I've learned so much. Um, I can't tell you how different a person I am from when I got into TEFL. I honestly think I would be a much worse version of myself if I hadn't got into TEFL. I think I would have been a very, I won't say narrow minded, but I don't think I would be as open and accepting of what happens in the world and why people are the way they are. And it gives you a sense of curiosity about people that you will never lose. And so long as you have it, you're going to be a great teacher because that's what it really comes down to. It's about the people you were teaching and what it means to them and the difference that you can make in their lives. I've had people who have gone to university because of the classes we did. I've had people who've had promotions, who've been able to get married, who have been able to emigrate. I, there was one famous person who had no English, came to me. They had been given the highest award in their profession, and they had to go and do an acceptance speech. I think it was in Austria, and I had a month to train this guy. And we did 35 hours a week, 1-to-1, which is more than intensive. But he came back, and he was so overjoyed that he had been able to stand in front of his peers and deliver an acceptance speech and answer some very basic questions and field the rest. But he was terrified of looking foolish in front of the people who voted for him as top in the field. And that just, I remember sitting there when he told me this, and I thought, my God, you know, I think it reinforced the whole thing of what a difference you're going to make in people's lives when you get out there, and the joy, the fun you can have doing it. Um, I could write a book. You know,
Yeah, I
it is
think
so much fun.
I totally agree with you. It really is like there's so many other fulfilling careers as well, let's say a
Mm,
doctor or whatever it be. But I think this career is even just to get your TEFL certification is such a fast track to that fulfillment and just,
absolutely.
really, I agree. Like even just in an hour's lesson, you can make such a huge impact on
Yeah.
somebody's life. No, thank you, John. Your stories are amazing. Here in the office, we love to hear John's stories. It's endless stories, which is fantastic, which we really look forward to hearing more of in future webinars. Absolutely. Um, I actually got some great messages there, John, as well, while you were chatting. Michael there said he's turning 60 soon, has to retire end of contract as a virtual training consultant insurance industry. But now he's actually considering TEFL as a new career. He is afraid that employers may be looking for younger teachers, but he said he feels 30 on the inside.
Yeah. Can I give Michael one little thing on that? Because that's a frequent one that I hear. And I'm not sorry, so I'm not going to cut yours. But when I went to Turkey, Michael, I was, I don't know, probably in my mid 20s. We had a lady who was 60, her husband had passed away, bought a motorhome, drove to Turkey and started teaching. And we had another lady who'd lived all her life in Africa and had to leave, an English lady. She was 74. So
Oh, there
they're
you
still
go.
spring
Yeah,
chicken.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Even Margaret there says that she is a medically retired nurse and looking at teaching online to help her son through college. So amazing, but looking maybe doing a bit of face to face as well. I was saying that yes, with a TEFL certification, you can do both, a mix of both as well. Some really nice comments in there, which I'll definitely get back to, guys. But I'm now going to pass you on to our Emos, who is going to get our head in gear and get us ready to start planning our TEFL career for 2026.
Thanks, Jess. And well, thank you, John. Next time, I think I'll give you my time slot because I really want to hear the rest of your stories. But it really, really is. It's always great just to hear how TEFL can genuinely change someone's life and career. Um, so anyway, Jess introduced me earlier, but for those of you who've just joined, so hello once again. I'm Emos, and I'm the TEFL job coach. And basically, my role is just to kind of try and help new and experienced teachers navigate the TEFL job markets, finding opportunities that hopefully match, one's goals, lifestyle, and where you see yourselves next. So there really is just so much we could talk about, and I think you understood that from um, John earlier as well. There's just really a lot to cover, a lot to say when it comes to TEFL, and it's going to be a bit of a stretch, hard to squeeze it all in 20 minutes, but I'm going to do my best to share a few insights, key insights, and sort of practical tips that will hopefully help all of you who are with us today to kind of plan your own TEFL journey with a little bit more confidence. Um, I'm just going to kind of briefly cover the current opportunities out there, some of the main opportunities out there, what the main trends look like, and how to kind of basically just plan your career for long-term growth. So if we sort of start with the global picture, where the jobs are right now, probably Asia continues to lead and probably has done for quite some time, especially countries like South Korea, Japan, Vietnam, and Thailand. And all these contracts, all these countries generally offer stable contracts, good salaries, and there is really a strong demand for qualified teachers. If we go over to Europe, when I say Europe, particularly Spain and Italy remain popular for in-person and online roles. And it's great for teachers who prefer a cultural lifestyle experience, like John was saying earlier in Portugal. I definitely know what you mean about the cuisine in that part of the world. And then Latin America, that's another one, very interesting. And there's a lot of growing demand in places like Mexico, Chile, Costa Rica. And it's really ideal for those seeking that kind of community-oriented schools and immersion. And then last but not least, the Middle East, places like UAE, Saudi Arabia, and they offer some very good financial packages out there as well. So well, really, ever since COVID, one of the biggest shifts has obviously been the continued rise of online teaching. And many teachers now mix online work with travel or use it as a kind of a stepping stone, perhaps, into in-person teaching. And when teaching online, you can work for established platforms, you can build your own student base, or maybe you can do a bit of both, a bit of part-time online work or and a little bit of something in person. And it really is it's quite an interesting option. It's flexible, portable, and when you think about it, it is genuinely life-changing. And really, once you are TEFL qualified, it's almost like having a passport in your pockets. I think that's kind of one of the best ways I can describe it. You can go almost anywhere, find work, build new experiences, and it kind of really gives you the freedom to choose where and how you teach. And I think it's the type of industry where you can do it just for a brief period, maybe because you just simply want to travel. You can stop and later pick up from where you left off. And for some, and I was reading earlier in the comments, it's a complete 360-degree life change. And for others, it's almost like having, and I was trying to think of the word earlier, how to best describe this, but it's even like having career insurance. So if your plan A doesn't quite work out, you've always got this alternative pathway to fall back on in your back pocket. So yeah, really, there are endless, valid reasons for pursuing a career in TEFL. And hopefully, if you do decide to embark on this journey, you'll be as fortunate as myself and John in that we both absolutely are jobs, if I can even call it that. It feels almost criminal to call it a job. Um, and also, something that is sometimes overlooked, and it's the fact that TEFL isn't just about classroom teaching anymore. Um, we're seeing a growth in corporate English training, content creation, teacher training, curriculum development. So when you enter this world, you're not just restricted, albeit it's extremely satisfying, but you're not just restricted to teaching. There are many, many other opportunities. And there are specialized areas as well, whether it's exam prep, such as preparing students for IELTS, high stakes exams, English for specific purposes. I mean, if before I started teaching, if someone had told me that there was such a thing as aviation English, uh, I wouldn't have believed them. And also teaching young learners, and all these different niches are expanding fast, and it really is a field full of possibilities. And I believe in the comments as well, I saw someone mention that they have a background in sort of medicine. So there's English, sort of medical English as well. That's another career path. And I mean, if I look at myself right now, I started off as a teacher, and here I am with all of you on a webinar giving some advice. So it just really shows how diverse and flexible the TEFL journey can be. Now, if we think about our career planning and professional development, um, when planning your TEFL career, really you should start by asking, what is my goal? Very, very simple question. Is it travel? Is it flexibility, long-term growth? And already the great thing is, and I think Jess was mentioning some of the options earlier, if you have a basic TEFL certificate, you're already qualified for entry-level positions or potentially online roles. And then fast forward to a level 5 qualification, and automatically you start to unlock better paying jobs, more competitive schools. And as you gain experience, why not add specialist courses like teaching young learners or business English? And you're slowly starting to figure out your niche. And you should really think of your TEFL CV as your own kind of personal brand, and try to kind of highlight your adaptability, your cultural awareness, something that John touched upon earlier, and any teaching practice that you may have. And as you go along, I just mentioned, try to figure out your niche, whether that's young learners, exam preparation, or adults. Because I really do believe that it's extremely useful to be flexible, but also having focus can really help you grow at the same time. Um, when applying, also use trusted job boards and always research employers. And I think, again, Jess mentioned earlier, TEFL.ai. I'm sure that's a pretty useful website for pointing you into the right direction. And I think also something I want to say is when starting off and trying to land that very first job, I really want to reiterate when it comes to interviews, schools aren't just assessing your experience. And I promise you this wasn't done on purpose, but me and John, 5 minutes before, we had a little chat about this. It doesn't just come down to solely experience. They're looking for personality, reliability, and above all, a passion for teaching. That definitely makes up 50% of it, if not more, if not more. And one piece of advice would be in any interview, especially when it's your first one, treat it as a two-way process. Be friendly and professional, but also curious about their setup. Ask about how the lessons are structured, the materials provided, the support, the training. How does the typical teaching schedule look like? And these questions show that you're serious about good teaching and finding a role that fits you and not just any job. And once you've landed a role, keep developing your skills, attend workshops, join online, teaching communities, and connect in the field. I think it's always, the one thing that I will say, it's always good to kind of invest in yourself. It doesn't matter how long you've been teaching for. I've done something as recently as last year, for example, because one, not only are you improving your own skills, knowledge, but also you just never know when it'll come handy, be useful, and it might not immediately help you to land that job. But maybe in a year down the line, you'll think, "Oh, I'm really, really happy that I did that course or that I have that qualification." And the TEFL world, about what I said earlier about joining online teaching communities, connecting with others in the field. The TEFL world is surprisingly small, and I think John and Jess can definitely vouch for this. It's a bit like 6 degrees of separation. I'm sure if me and John get another 5 minutes to chat, we'll probably find someone that we both know somewhere in the world. Really, really sure about it. So yeah, teachers, recruiters, and schools, they're all interconnected. So every good impression you can make can open doors later on. So to kind of sum up, really, TEFL isn't just about teaching abroad. It's really about building a life filled with travel, purpose, growth. And whether your goal is to teach online, explore the world, or advance in terms of education, I think there is always a pathway that you can find that suits you. So, in a nutshell, that's about it, really. It's kind of quite hard to beat John's stories there from
Yeah,
earlier. But hopefully, I've
yeah, absolutely.
given a few helpful tips, and I saw quite a few comments in the
Yeah,
chat. Um,
yeah. Absolutely. I just have to parrot as well what you said about I mean, you can have all the qualifications in the world, but to have that personality, enthusiasm for a career really gets you so far as well. Because I definitely can see there in the chat as well, some concerns about I don't have a degree, I don't have experience, age limitations, all of that. But I'm sure you can agree that really, if you can highlight your CV in the right way, your resume, really showcase your enthusiasm for TEFL as well. I'm sure that gets you far, Emus.
yeah, it definitely does. And if I can let you on a little secret, promise not to tell everyone and the whole internet.
It's a
But I
secret between
actually,
us all here.
just between us, right? But I actually started off with a very, very, very simple TEFL qualification. Not even comparable to anything that's on offer with the courses that you were mentioning earlier, Jess. And actually, when I did land that first job, that first position, it was probably thanks to my enthusiasm. I'd like to think my personality as well, and they were able to see my commitment that I had. And then I kind of did everything backwards in terms of the qualifications because I just fell in love with the job, just like
Yeah.
John did as well. But so yeah, it definitely is very much the case. It's not just all, as much as it is important to have, but it's not just all about the qualification. It makes a difference as
Absolutely.
well, all the other stuff.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go back there, guys. We definitely got a few questions earlier on. We will definitely finish up this webinar now with a Q&A session. So feel free to shout out any questions as well if you prefer to chat with John and Emas. But I'm going to pick some good questions there from the chat. And just to say as well, when you are enrolled with us, you will get access to monthly job coaching webinars with Emas. So you can see more of Emas if you haven't had enough today. I believe it's every second Monday, is that right, Emas, of the month?
Correct. Yes. So the
Yeah,
next
every
one,
second.
I believe, is in on the 10th, if I'm not mistaken.
Great.
So.
Yeah, brilliant. So any more questions that we don't cover today, certainly feel free to attend Emas's session as well if you are an enrolled student. So going back there earlier on, we got a question for John. I have this question about how far will the 120 hours certification be recognized? Meaning, is the accreditation, is it valid globally, especially in native countries like US, UK, Australia, India, etc.? What would be your take there, John?
I think, sorry, can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Yep. Um, I I think Amos has just actually touched on it. I think he's answered the question because, like Amos, my certification wasn't anything near what we're doing now. What we're doing now is it is literally miles above where myself and possibly Amos would have started. So it's the certification is key. However, and again, Amos touched on this, it's really about how you're going to approach it. How much do you want it? Because the accreditation is there. That's recognized worldwide. Anyone can check how good the qualification is. It's up to you to show that you're going to be as good as the qualification you've got. It's that passion. That's the only word I can use for it. It is passion. Put the passion into it. Put the effort in that you've put into getting your certification. Employers have been doing this a long time, and I'm sure Amos has been in the same situation where we've hired teachers. I know when I speak to a teacher, I listen to a teacher, I know what they're going to be like in a classroom. So if you have that passion, put that out there first. Don't worry about the accreditation or anything else. That will stand any test that's put to it. But it's up to you to show that you want to be the best teacher you can be. Do that.
Yes.
Don't worry about anything else.
Yeah. No,
Hey,
thanks,
John,
John.
thanks a lot for answering the question. Maybe just to sum it up, yeah, I got the answer to your question, but I've been into the teaching aspect for quite some time, and I've been doing that successfully in Europe, especially in France and Paris. So, what really concerns me is that posting that question, I could see a couple of comments and chats session. They're already qualified TEFL trainers and teachers, where they're finding it hard or difficult to find a suitable job, which is not my case. I should not be comparing that because I haven't done TEFL, which is still I'm on the verge of taking it, maybe in a few days from now. Which is definite. But my concern is that even after getting qualified from TEFL, will although as you said, my approach towards teaching having a positive attitude, even if I still do have those things in mind, and if I'm following that, will it be hard for me just in case if I want to travel back? Maybe let's say I want to go back to UK or India or even Australia, somewhere apart from EU. So these TEFL qualification, will it still be valid there? Will it still
Yes.
be recognized there? Is it
Yes.
something like global?
Yes. In one word, yes. That
It
will
is.
be recognized anywhere you go. Anyone will know the quality of that qualification. And the fact that you have the experience, like I said, and a lot of people do what you've done. It's they will get into the teaching and find that they enjoy doing it. It's something they're passionate about, and then want to formalize that ability. And that really is it. Once you have that formalized, you can say, look, I've got an accredited certificate or diploma here. Okay. And I've got experience. So, like I said, if you have that passion for it, you have something that's recognized worldwide to prove that you know what you're doing. And it's up to you then to show that you love what you do.
That's great. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Just some
Yeah.
lovely comments. Thanks, Jane. Just some lovely comments there earlier as well. A few more stories. Sian is 65, an ex-London firefighter, very exciting, and currently a pool lifeguard. Currently doing our 120-hour course, wants to teach online, might consider traveling. Her daughter is teaching online as well, so it's in the family while she's traveling and is helping to fund her travel. Absolutely, Tian, to be able to teach online where you want from the comfort of home while you're traveling to fund that kind of adventure as well is brilliant. And Lilia said there as well, Turkey, I think John was covering Turkey there, is very beautiful. Very deep traditions there as well. And you really need to see Spain in your lifetime as well. That's a great recommendation. Another question that came in there. So, do employers or organizations generally recognize TEFL certificates, excuse me, issued by other accredited institutes, or do they prefer certificates from specific providers? I was actually going to touch on that from the last question, which I think kind of overlaps. It is best to go with companies that are globally recognized, such as ourselves. It really does make for an easier life when it comes to applying for jobs. You might have other providers that provide similar qualifications, but to have a qualification with a company that's long-standing, fully accredited, is invaluable as well. We have there as well a registered post-primary and guidance counselor wants to do TEFL to teach English as an additional language. Again, so many pathways. You don't have to go abroad. You don't have to teach online. There's so many opportunities there. Great question as well. How can someone with extensive teaching experience in another field, like business studies or education administration, leverage that background in TEFL? I don't know who wants to take that one, John or Eamos.
Yeah.
Sorry, you go first.
Yeah. So I think really it's kind of all about transferable skills, really, isn't it? I suppose. So the fact that you have sort of business studies or education administration, I'm immediately thinking potentially English for specific purposes, business English, for example. And there are so many skills that you can highlight. So it's really kind of all about getting that message across to a future a potential employer. Yes, while I don't have experience in teaching, I do have this on the other hand. And not everyone, and I'll be to raise my hand and kind of admit it, not everyone can teach business English, for example. That's not what my strength is, for example. I don't know, John, was that more or less what you were going to say, or?
Yeah, I just add in it's pretty. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. Is that, and I think it's what I started with. Is that no matter what your background is, it doesn't matter what your education is in, whether it's business or medical or anything else, you can bring that to bear within English if that's something you want to do. If you love doing, as you say, your business studies, education, administration, if you have a passion for that, bring it into TEFL. The opportunities are there. People are always looking for business English. My thing was business and technical English. I just loved doing them. Um, and my God, once I got into it, there were times I had to turn down work because I loved it. So I wouldn't worry too much about trying to figure out how you do it. Get yourself into the training side within the English language. The rest will follow.
Yeah, absolutely. I could just see that someone raised their hand. I think her name is Kay. Did you have a question there, Kay? Just wanted to check with you.
Yes, I do. I'm on the 120-hour course. I've just started it. I wanted to do the level 5 because of my Christmas budget. I went for this one instead. And I don't know. So my question is, do I have to start the level 5 from scratch, or is there an add-on that you can buy into in order to continue the training? That's all.
Yeah, maybe John, would you be able to take that one
Yeah,
for us?
they're two completely different courses, Kay.
Okay.
They have a different angle on it. But if you want to call in after, we can have a look at how we can work that one around for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, so I see kind of comments there as well about they have the TEFL cert, they have even a bachelor's degree, but still struggling to find a job with no experience. What's kind of the best route there if you are looking to gain a bit of experience?
I can start again. I'll start this one. I think if you're looking to gain a bit of experience now, there are a lot of factors depending on where you're based, etc. What's your target, so on and so forth. But one of the first things that I would do if I were in your shoes, and if you have this option, sometimes even just directly approaching schools in person, if you have that possibility. Um, some countries, it probably works better in some countries than others. I'm thinking kind of Southern Europe, for example. They do really appreciate that, almost that personal touch, knocking on the door and saying, "Hello, I'm about. Here's my CV. If anything comes up, please, I'd really appreciate the opportunity to come in and have a chat." That's one option. Sort of volunteering, asking if you can kind of shadow a few lessons, maybe explaining that you are a new teacher. And I think John said something really interesting about teachers helping fellow teachers. And I think in this industry, no one will ever kind of close the door, shut the door on someone who genuinely does want to learn and improve. But so I'm certain that a school wouldn't have any problems in a teacher sort of shadowing as well, popping in just to learn. They are quite receptive to that. So those will already be two immediate things that I would do. If the phone calls and the emails aren't working, why not just give a knock
I like
on the
it.
door and
Yeah, a bit
just
of door knocking.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we
Yeah.
also have a great course you see on our website called the 10-hour virtual teaching practice course, Jennifer. So this would be more peer-to-peer practice, but it really just kind of you're able to kind of dip your toe in the water there. And we run a live Zoom session with our tutor who will observe your mock lessons and give you feedback. So that's really a great way to kind of dip your toe in the water. And as Emos said then as well, at the same time, you could be reaching out for some experience, whether it's volunteering or shadowing. Um, Another
And
question
just say
there.
something, Jess.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Sorry, just on that, because it is something that happens, and I've just look, it's Chris there, I think. It has the same kind of question. The key to getting that foot in the door is flexibility. That's really what it comes down to when you're trying to get that first little door opener. Flexibility is the key. That's why when I said when I started out, I took that job offer. I had no idea what I was doing, but I just thought I have to get the experience, and everything Eva said, 100% back up, volunteering even just to get a bit of experience.
And I think I'll just add something there as well to that. I think what you're saying, John, as well about the flexibility factor is really, really important. When I first started, for example, I said yes to everything. I
Yeah,
obviously my niche since then has evolved, and I specialize in preparing students for IELTS exam,
yeah,
etc. However, at the beginning, if I had to teach nursery kids,
yeah.
that was fine. Slightly traumatic, but it was okay. I survived my first year. But it was just about getting that experience. And looking back on it, I'm glad I did it. Because it did help me figure out what I wanted to specialize in. But it's important that any future potential employer sees that you're flexible and willing to learn and you're not
Yeah,
too fussy, let's say.
yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely. Um, I can see a question in there from Serge. So I see this as an opportunity to work in Japan. That is my dream location as well, Serge. I'm just a little hesitant because English is not my native language. So how do I deal with that? I heard that there is a preference is given to native speakers. Yeah, it is sometimes a case of, for example, if you wanted to learn Spanish, you would look for a native Spanish teacher, kind of the way it can work sometimes. But really, it can be down to the country as well. I think with Japan, you'd be kind of have to look there at, are you looking at public schools, private schools? There's a lot of that to sort of navigate to, and getting your visa. Um, but would there be any advice there, Enos or John,
Yeah.
in terms of trying to showcase your fluency?
So I think there would be a couple of things I would do if I were in your shoes. So, well, the first thing that I would like to just get out there is that fortunately the TEFL industry has come a long, long way in that um, the majority of schools are now very much aware that non-native speakers can be just as good as native speakers, and in some cases better. So that's one thing really, really important to get out there. Now, if I were in your shoes, what I would probably consider is perhaps investing in an English proficiency exam. Maybe I would sit an IELTS exam, a Cambridge sort of C1, C2 exam, just so that any potential lingering doubts are put, put to rest, let's say. That's probably the first thing that I would do. And secondly, to give myself a little bit the upper hand, so in specifically with the case of Japan, why not do a basic Japanese A1 course? A1, A2. So you're showing that although you're a non-native speaker, you have mother tongue qualification through IELTS or Cambridge. So that kind of puts that to one side. And you're also showing them that you know a little bit of Japanese, for example, in this instance, which is extremely useful. I think I did say A1, but I think they have different levels. I think it's like from N5 to N1, but it's more or less yeah, basically A1 or A2, something like that. Already that's in Japan, especially, that's really appreciated if you do have that. So um,
Oh, that's great. That's great. Thanks, Enos. Yeah, quite a few queries there about no experience, which is interesting. But again, there's so many pathways you could take to kind of build that experience in. Question there from Hannah. Does TEFL offer courses specific to aviation or corporate English? Aviation, no, not yet. Again, I think as Emas is saying, there's all these kind of, niches coming in and becoming more and more popular. So while we do try and really keep our offerings competitive, we're not quite there yet. But corporate English, certainly. So we have a range of business English courses where you can specialize in it. So I definitely would recommend checking those out. They aren't standalone qualifications, so you still need your base qualification of 120 hours or 180 hours. But we have lots of materials on business English as well. So you said, yeah, could you complete the 120 hours followed by one of these? You absolutely can. Yeah, as a package. Kay says there, I'm on the 120 course and would love to do the level 5 training. Do I have to start the level 5 teacher training from the beginning, or is there an add-on? Great question. We get this all the time. There's separate qualifications. Okay, so different content, different assessment. So I would treat them separately. And for anyone else who's on the fence about it, it just depends on what opportunities you're looking for. So the 120, great for entry-level jobs, teaching online. The level 5, if you really want a strong application, a competitive qualification in the industry, that would be a level equivalent to a CELTA. That's the one to go for as well. Chris says there, do you assist with job searches for people who have already done level 5 through another company? I have only come across our company. So I think what you're saying there, if you get qualified, is it through another company? Do we offer that job support? Well, we run these webinars for free for anyone who's looking to join on. But in terms of exclusive support, as I said, with EMAS's monthly job coaching, contacting us for advice, anything like that, you would need to be an enrolled student with us to access that support, resources, everything like that. So you would need to be enrolled with us. From Sumi there, so I have a lot of course questions, which is great. Is the 310 course equivalent to a CELTA, and is the 60-hour business English course enough for me to take up business English as my niche? I'm actually going to pass this to John because he probably gets this question on a daily basis. So John, about the 310 there, about being an equivalent to CELTA and the 60-hour business English course.
I'm glad you did that. I was reading it just before you started, and I thought I'd like to answer that. The answer is yes and yes. In short, the one thing I would say, and it is difficult when you haven't started in TEFL, the concept of teaching ESP. So the question about aviation English, the idea, it goes back to what I said earlier about what is your background, what is it that you're passionate about. You don't necessarily need to be a business expert or have a degree in business English to teach business English. It's just something that you want to teach. It's something that you feel you'd enjoy and that you could give to the students. So the way to think about this is that you're not teaching business to the students. What your job as the teacher is, get yourself trained. As I say to people, you're learning to rewire your brain about something that is inherently natural, which is the language you've learned from a young age, whether it be first or second language. You're rewiring your brain how you think about the language, and your job as the TEFL teacher, the English teacher, is to go in and assess the student or students' language needs, not their business needs. So it's about understanding how you take what you know naturally and making that into a package that fits the business students' needs, but in terms of the language. So in short, I would say yes and yes, but it's not about coming up with a business class. You're coming up with a language class that fits the business English needs of your student. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't now, you will by the time we finish the course.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, John. Gavin there has a question to build experience. Would you also recommend the TEFL internships? In short, absolutely. These internship programs are a really great gateway to getting experience in the classroom. If you have no prior teaching experience, and you're just getting your TEFL qualification, it's a brilliant way to get set up there as well. It's usually a kind of all-inclusive package as well. So we kind of sort your accommodation, your visa support, everything like that, and place you in a school. So it's brilliant, and you get excellent experience on these placements too, and a lot of responsibility. So it's brilliant to have on your CV too. Question there from Leah. Do many positions typically have a local native teaching assistant in the room to help with translation? That's a great question. I've been curious to figure out how that is navigated in the classroom if you don't speak the student's language. I love that question.
I love that.
Does anyone want to
Love that
take that
question.
from me?
I'd happily again. I was just reading it. It's again one of the most common questions. Again, this is about rewiring your brain, Leah, to think about the language. Okay, I will always go back to the simple examples of if you learned a language in school, let's say French, okay, and after 5 years, which was my case, I couldn't really speak French after 3 years, and we went on a school trip to France, and I was heartbroken because I thought I'd be fluent. I realized then that there was something not quite right with things. And as fantastic as my French teacher was, and it took until I was training and getting into TEFL myself to realize you don't learn a language by listening to your first language. You can't. So if you think about if English is your first language, how did you learn it? Nobody came in and translated baby talk into structurally, grammatically correct English for you. You picked it up as you went. You learn by listening, doing, repeating. And you start out with the ABC 1, 2, 3, my name is, his name is, and you build it layer upon layer upon layer. And it develops very rapidly once people realize that translating doesn't work. It just doesn't. You're slowing down the learning process. Learn by example. That's the answer to it.
Oh, that's great, John. Somebody said there as well, thank you, John, for that inspiring reply. So a quick question there, maybe Enos, you could take it. Margaret's wondering where to apply for professional language teaching, i.e. to nurses looking to come to the UK or Ireland. So I guess places maybe online that she could look.
Yeah. So I think your best bets would definitely be naturally looking at line and online, excuse me. Again, it's quite obviously here we're sort of looking at English for specific purposes, medical English. So I would probably be looking. Sometimes these are advertised. I've seen this in the past, actually by hospitals themselves looking for language teachers or incoming nurses, doctors, members of staff. I have seen these done before. For example, I think there were a couple in London I saw that did actively do this. Also, there are a few training hubs that do run support programs for international sort of incoming nurses from abroad, doctors, etc. And there are also exams. One specifically, it's called the Occupational English Test, something like that. So if I were you, I would perhaps also take a look at this specific exam because that directly deals with, again, nurses coming in, doctors coming in, see which schools, training centers, or maybe hospitals that kind of offer that, and see if you can follow the trail, so to speak. That would be
Great, thanks, Seamus.
yeah, no
Would
problem.
it be a normal thing to like print out a post for myself and put it on a hospital notice board? Is that something people do you think, or
Um, why not? I
and
think like
just
yeah, I mean obviously I ask the permission first.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But you don't
And
you don't have to work through an agency or whatever, do you? No.
I mean I'm sure there are agencies that naturally deal with this sort of thing, but it's not like they exclusively need to go through them. I wouldn't imagine so. I
In
just
in ordinary TEFL teaching, do
yeah.
people always go through schools, or is there a lot of kind of one-to-one in the
No, there's
community where
also yeah, there's also one-to-one. There are schools, but there are also people who are self-employed. Um, so it doesn't
okay.
have to be exclusively from a school. And actually, I was just kind of had a bit of a flashback. I was just thinking about at universities, for example. In universities, you see the notice board, people regularly offering their services, of teaching, exam prep, etc. So I think there wouldn't be definitely wouldn't be against you doing that. Just ask for the permission and make it
Brilliant.
make a nice fancy poster. uh,
Perfect.
yeah,
Thank you very
That's great.
much.
no problem.
Thanks, Seamus. Some brilliant questions today, guys. Unfortunately, we're going to have to start wrapping it up. I'm sure all of you have a busy day ahead. Any questions we missed, feel free to contact us at any stage. So we're available on the phone, live chat, through our website, email us, anything like that at all. We're more than happy to help you out, guys. As I said as well, we have lots of webinars on demand on YouTube. There are library that you can access on every kind of topic when it comes to TEFL. And we will also send out a recording of this webinar as well that you can watch back. If you enjoyed this webinar, I'm just going to leave our review link there. Please leave us your feedback, how you got on, and don't forget to mention our names, Jess, John, and Emas. And if you email us to let us know about this review, we will actually send you a free lesson planning guide as well to top it off. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. It was a brilliant session, really interactive. Thank you so much to John and Emas for sharing their stories, their wisdom with us. It was fantastic. And thank you, guys.